Good afternoon. On Monday, June the 23rd, 2025. I almost surprised myself at June 23rd here.
Oh, yes?
Yeah, because I'm surprised. I surprised myself at it because, first of all, I can't believe that we're at June 23rd already.
No, exactly.
And I seem to be thinking that where has the time gone?
Honestly, where has it gone? Because it feels like the month just started.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And that's one of the, that is certainly one of the that is the powerhouse that we have.
That's just it, yeah.
And it's almost been 2 months since we've been doing this show too.
It has. Can you believe that?
You know what? The thing is I feel like I can believe that because we're having so much fun with it.
We are, yeah. Of course.
And having all of this, a part of, this is, what? We have our own brand. You know what? The beauty here is we have our own brand going here.
We do.
It's all part of, as we call it, it's all sort of under the Broadcast Map brand here. And I think this is an exciting thing.
Yeah, it is. You've got to have somewhere for it all to kind of go and to be part of, right? So,
Yes, all part of the Broadcast Map brand or the or the Broadcast Map network, any sort of, oh, you know what? We'll come up with a name for this network. How's that?
a network sounds kind of cool.
Pardon me?
Network sounds kind of cool as
Yes, well,
opposed
we'll
to
come.
even brand.
Yeah, no, we'll come up with a name for this network. How's that?
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
Let's do that. We'll do that. We'll do that off air. We'll come up. Okay, so for those of you who are listening and for those of you who are checking us out live here, so stay tuned here on some exciting moments here.
It is exciting. You won't want to miss it.
No, exactly. Nope. And something for the last day of June, where we will have that announcement.
Gosh, what a crazy thought that that's going to be what next Monday is already the last day of the month.
I know, it's nuts, isn't it?
It is. And to me, that was always when summer really started because even if you're not in school anymore, you still get that sense of June 30th is kind of the final day before the real summer kind of starts, is what I always thought.
But you know what, though?
Hmm.
It's funny to think that.
It
Because,
is. It's funny that that still sort of stays in your body and in your memory.
you know what? Because, now schools actually end, most of them end this Thursday.
I guess so. It depends on what like grades you're in and stuff. That's, your high schools and things definitely are done by then and even by now, to be honest. But
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I I always found that as I kind of went through school, I always sort of, I don't know, I'm just, you know what, I don't even honestly feel like, I'm not even, I don't even honestly, I think now that that's kind of done for me, I feel like, it's a good moment because, excitement of different things.
yeah, and it's not to say that in my case that that is what stays with me is the school part. It's just that feeling of
It's the feeling of over the hump.
it is. It is.
Yeah. So, yes, now, let's start off with, where would you like to start today?
We can start with High Road Leadership if you want. You can start there.
Okay, yeah, I was, yeah. Or you know what? Let's do the, let's get your thoughts first on, let's do Daisy Jones and the Sixth and the Six.
Okay, that sounds good.
Let's do
We
that. Go
can
ahead.
we can get a good bit into this
Yeah, tell
because
me your thoughts so far.
I it's been a few years for me since I read this book. I think I read it while I was still in high school because I remember talking to people about it and it was popular at the time and I was saying, "Oh, this is a great book." And I still think that, and I wonder if I didn't really consider at the time why I thought it was a great book because for me, what's great about it is the fact that it is a work of fiction. You know, they're not a real band, but the first time I read it, I was convinced they were. It's written in such a way that, and narrated in such a way, to be honest, where there's the pauses and there's sort of the narrators each do a very good job at sounding like they're trying to recall these memories and trying to recall bits and pieces. And it's so convincingly done that I remember having to Google and being like, oh, it is fiction. It's not a real band, but it's all put together so amazingly. And I think it was also the first thing that I'd listened to with multiple narrators. And it's just really immersive and cool. Like, I really love it.
I think it sort of goes to, I feel like it kind of comes down to some of the similar sort of. I'm seeing a theme to this book so far.
Okay. I'm very curious to hear what that is for you.
Um, I feel I feel like for me, the theme here. And by the way, if you're listening live here on YouTube, feel free to interact with us. You can chat with us there on the live chat as well. So going back to, for me, the theme is kind of what we've discussed in the past of it goes through society. It goes through. It shows kind of the realities of what goes on in society, and also, and this is of course part of it is sort of like in the sense of how they how she wanted to fit in at the beginning there. It kind of talks about that at a teenage, so like I feel like it's one of those things where that's the theme, where it's about doing anything to fit in, and and not really thinking about what you're doing, what is being done in the moment, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and especially with Daisy Jones as a character, where it's early, very described in detail that she didn't really have anyone in her life, right? So for her fitting in doesn't seem like it's just about, oh, I want to look like that, I want to be that, but fitting in seems to translate to her as being loved or being accepted, being seen.
Yes, that's basically, yeah. No, yeah, you make a good point there.
And I just think it's cool because, and this is, I think, part of what made me think it was real at first, because as you said, it kind of depicts the reality, not just in the sense of this is what happens in society, but it puts them in reality because they talk about Bob Dylan, they talk about the Rolling Stones, they talk about these bands that are real, but they're putting these characters in the same context and in the same places as them. So it makes it feel like, I don't know, there's just a really nice picture painted of that 60s, 70s era, what you can imagine it might have been like.
Yes, because I feel like what's going on here is, especially in that era, it's a situation where, like, it was a different era, and it really not, it cannot entirely be compared to today, even though that is a factor for somebody reading it today, that you sort of begin to sort of draw the line of how, and sort of pinpoint that era versus today.
Maybe, but I feel like sometimes to say it was a different time feels dismissive of how similar some things can be.
Well, yes, but no. Let me clarify that point.
Sure.
Okay. It was a different time in the sense that there were differences. Okay, like everything was different. Lifestyle was different. The lifestyles were different. What people could get away with back then was different. Some of it still does apply today. So that's basically what I meant.
That is true, and you can see some of that with characters saying, "Oh, I'm not saying that this was okay, but this is how it was at the time." Because, like I said before, they're kind of, these are memories that they're recalling, so they're saying like, "Oh, I'm not saying that this was okay that someone did that or went about something that way. It's just what the culture was at the time, especially in California or, what have you."
Yeah. Well, and that's what I meant, right? Like that. Yeah, and you can see that with the different character portrayals.
You can, yeah. It's neat in that way. And I will say it, especially this time around, it made me want to go listen to music from those decades afterwards because you're so deeply placed in that time and in this place that you just, I don't know. I listen to that music anyway sometimes, but
Oh, I like the '70s. Look, yeah.
But it just feels like it would pull you deeper into it listening to that kind of music.
Yes.
After reading it, and that's kind of cool too. But I want to go back to what you said about character portrayals in that there are so many characters and they are so vastly different in their perspectives. And I think it's fascinating. You can have one person saying something and then immediately someone kind of rebukes it or goes, "Oh, this isn't how that happened."
Yes. Yes, and audience participation is always welcome. What are your thoughts on the book? Let us know. Let us know
if
either.
you've read it,
Pardon me?
love to hear about. If you'd love,
even if you haven't. Even if you haven't, what are your thoughts on the discussion here? We do have a little we do have a Q&A up on the live chat now as well. So so feel free to either you can chime in there, or if you're listening afterward, you can let us know your thoughts either way on there are many ways to get a hold of us.
Absolutely, and we will discuss all of those later on.
Yes. Absolutely. Yep. So.
But yeah, just generally, would you say you're enjoying the book, or how are you finding it?
You know what? For me, it's interesting.
Okay. Interesting, good. Interesting, not so good. Because we talked about that one being a bit of a double-edged sword before, I think.
Yes. Oh my. I had a feeling, I don't know, I just had a feeling you would ask me that.
It's so funny how you get the feelings about these things.
So, interesting. Maybe you know what? I don't know if I'll say it's in a bad way or if it's in a good way here because I feel like I'm sort of in the middle. One being, yes, it gives me. I like it because it gives me an idea. It gives me sort of an idea of what it took to get there.
Yeah.
But But I'm not a fan of the graphic elements of it.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I forgot how much of that there was. I don't think I noticed it as much the first time around, but I can understand that.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So now I'm wondering if you want to move into High Road Leadership, or we can also discuss the ending of the Midnight Library, because I know we sort of talked about doing that last week too.
Oh, we can do a little bit of both if you want. Let's do that.
Yeah, because we want to get to everything. And
Yeah. Oh, we will. We will.
yeah, so why don't you choose where we go next?
I'll let you choose.
Oh, no, I chose where we started.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let's maybe go into High Road Leadership.
Okay. Now, from where I am in that book, I actually am very I really appreciate the tips that he gives for becoming a leader. And even before becoming a leader, he talks about, to quote your words here now, I'm going to quote your words.
Oh no.
Yes. If I had a crowd cheer here, I would play it, which I do, but I do. I'll work on it in a minute.
No worries.
I'll work on it. Yes. So, to quote your words, quote, common sense stuff, quote.
Oh, not those words. Oh. And to think I'd almost let myself forget about that one.
No, 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 don't worry. I'm just,
No, I'm just kidding.
I know. Because, see, in order for like anyone, to be a leader, those initial sort of techniques have to also be practiced, and some people just don't. It's not too much in leadership because they can't, because they're on such different orders. But I think what he's sort of trying to do is kind of portray the balance between both areas of today and the way it was before.
I can see that, yeah. And I think building on what you just said, trying to work not only within, oh, these are orders, but maybe trying to work sort of within the framework of, oh, this is what people thought you had to do to get ahead, or this is what people thought you had to do to be someone in charge, to be a leader. But he's really grounding it back in humanity and back in relationships versus corporate gains or employees as just pieces of something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what tips is he discussing where you're at in the book now?
You know what? It's actually been a couple of days. I actually can't remember where I'm at right now.
Oh, fair enough.
But it is something that I am um, it is something that I'm, I'm going to, um, see, like, it is something that I'm going to sort of continue to pick up, and we will continue to discuss it as well.
Yeah, of course, because there is a lot of really great tips and principles that he covers.
Yeah.
He talks about what does it mean to be a giver? What does it mean to really know your self-worth in order to value others and respect others and recognize them, and what does it mean to see your own humanity?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really it, because what in human because see, humanity and leadership work hand in hand, if you ask me.
They do, absolutely, as they should.
Yes. Now, for me as a leader, my piece is to keep keep everyone happy. And where, if you can't, like, see, and I'm sure that you're also seeing that as well,
Yeah, of course I am.
that, you know if, when you come to me and have an idea, or you want to see how something's going to work, we have the conversation, and we we make it a common ground for everyone. That's my approach, and and I always believe in I always believe in making things happy. I always believe in in keeping everyone, keeping the people I work with happy.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the biggest, most important thing is having the conversation and the willingness to have it. Because, when we have these discussions, it's never just, okay, thanks for the idea, I'll think about it. It's, here's why I think this is going to work, or here's why I want to try this out, or here's what would happen if. And I think that's really important because it's not just saying, okay, I'll hear you out in terms of this is what we want to do,
Yep.
but not really following through on that. And I can absolutely understand wanting to keep everyone as happy as possible. And sometimes it's just not always possible. Not in the sense if you don't want to keep people happy, but it's really difficult to keep everyone happy all the time.
Yes. Yep. It is.
And
And
sometimes something that you might have to do is in the best interest of everyone, but everyone might not be happy with it. But it's still in the best interest and it's the right thing to do.
that's right. Yep. And see, the thing here also is that, see, when it comes to things, we operate under us, we operate under a small team here.
Hmm.
Right? We operate under a small team.
Yeah, that's true.
And, you know, and for us, it's a little bit, for us, it's easier to kind of balance it out and see how things progress and how we want things to be. And, and going about it that way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that, and you said it very well.
Yeah.
It is much easier in that sense.
Yes. And finally, the Midnight Library. Your thoughts on that? What did you think of the ending?
You know, I will quote something that you put in your review, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on why it's this way for you, but I have a similar thought, maybe for different reasons, so we'll see how that
No,
plays
go. You
out.
know what? Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
But to quote your review, you said that it wasn't what you expected, and I would agree in some ways because my thought was that Nora would just choose a life, and she almost did. She came very close to wanting to settle somewhere that wasn't her root life. But ultimately, she decides that she does want the life that was originally hers. And I think that as much as I didn't initially expect it, it makes sense for what the ultimate sort of messaging and themes appear to be, which is that this idea of, we contain multitudes, we contain infinite possibilities, and we'd love to be able to try them all. But at the end of the day, you have what you have. You have your life. You can't try everything. You have potential. You have 100 different ways that you could take things based on one decision that makes 20 other things different. But at the end of the day, it's your life, and you can't, not to say that you can't change things, you can to a certain extent. But I think the whole thing was, I think there were almost too many messages trying to happen at once, because then there's this whole thing about regret and not living with that, and sort of this really dramatic imagery of how to let go with regrets. But in the case of the book, it depicts that in the sense of the book of regrets literally being burned. And I think that that is almost a bit too much. I don't know. I didn't mind the book as a whole, but it kind of took it down by the end for me. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. So what? Remind me of what happened at the end.
So, because she chooses to live, right? The library sort of starts to fall apart and starts to burn. And she has to go and find the one book in the library that's not going to burn because it's empty. And it's the one that she literally has to start writing in herself to get back to her original life. And it's very dramatic in a way that the rest of the book really isn't, because if time starts to move, then she can't exist there anymore, right? Because it sort of exists in between time. And then so she gets to this point where she is struggling to get it. She finds the book, she takes a few tries to try to figure out how to get herself out of there and back into her life. And she can't find the right phrasing at first. And then she, you know, wakes up, sort of gets back to her life, and you can kind of see that she's moving towards, it's never explicitly said where she ends up, but you can kind of see that she's moving towards maybe getting pieces of this really good life that she was living, that she wanted to stay in, but she is possibly moving in a direction that will get her those things in her life anyways, because she sort of reconciles with her brother. He mentions seeing someone or meeting someone that he might be interested in, that is who he ends up with in that life that she wanted. So it kind of demonstrates how she is starting to make those changes and starting to recognize that she doesn't sort of have to be passive, or her life doesn't have to be what she thought it was.
Yeah. So my thoughts here are that I personally I actually I didn't think here that, I mean, of course, I wasn't sure if she would make it back to the library at the end, or I didn't think that. I sort of thought that with the way that it was going, that 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 somehow she would choose something different,
Yeah.
or maybe
Or
not even be, or maybe not even make it out alive. I don't know.
yeah, that would have made sense too in a way.
Right? Like, that's really what I was thinking.
And what did you think of the way that it handled the themes and the messages maybe that we've talked about here today, that we've talked about in the past with it?
Well, it's, I mean, the messaging is similar to all the things that sort of that we touched on today, where these are things that do happen, and it's the same sort of twist as the Hunger Games, sort of. It's the same type of twist. Not in the same way, but in a different way.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting comparison to draw.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. But overall, I think it was good. I think it was interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, it was all right. It was a fairly good book.
What was my rating? I think it was a 1 star or something.
I think so. I can understand that if it's not, something that you found that you enjoyed or that you found, I don't know. I'm not trying to justify and I shouldn't because it really doesn't matter.
No, no, no. You're doing, no, no, no. Don't worry. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yes, but you know what? No, but you know what though? I have to be honest. It's always, you know what? I like the different styles here that we've sort of come up with here, because it's very, because it makes for us for good conversations.
It does. And we can sort of look at different things every week or look at different ways
Yes.
that not even just the stories themselves, but look at different ways that people go about depicting things or writing about things. And I think that's fascinating.
Yes. Yes.
And speaking
So,
of good
yes.
books,
Yes.
what will our choice be for next week?
Well, we've got a couple of ideas. Um, we can either we can continue on with the books that we are working on, which is High Road Leadership.
And Daisy Jones and the Six.
Yes, we can do that. We can continue those and give people an update as to our findings and our updates on how we're doing and what our thoughts are. Or we can also start another one as well if you want.
You know what? I hadn't initially thought of just continuing on,
Okay, so
but
what book would you like to sort of do this time around? Which one? Something we can either pick something from my list, or
oh, I was just gonna say I hadn't initially thought of continuing on as a possibility, but I wonder if it might be the better idea just because of how much of each book of two books that we have left here.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, we can keep going with them, and then we'll give people updates on we'll give people updates
I
next
think
week.
I like that idea because then
Yeah,
once we've sort of gotten closer to the end of one or both of these, we can start fresh the next week and really, because it allows for more in-depth conversation if we can really get into a couple of these.
absolutely, and it's going to be fun. It will be fun. Hey, we're back. We're, you know what, people. You know what? It won't be quite Canada Day when we come back in, but people can. But you can enjoy listening to us on your Canada Day if you want.
You absolutely can. If that's when you've got the time, then absolutely. And we will still wish people an early Happy Canada Day
We
on that day.
certainly. Go ahead.
On that day.
Absolutely, we will. So, here's the important part.
Very important.
Yes.
Behind us.
How can people, if they want to answer our question here that we put up in the live chat here, or even we can make it even, how about, what, we'll even make it a poll question
That sounds great.
what were your thoughts on the books, if you have read them, and even if you haven't, how do you feel about the book or books based on our discussion?
Did we make you want to read them? Did we make you intrigued about the books? We'd love to hear about it.
Yeah. So where can people submit their comments?
We've got the Discord, Ali and Makara's Books, for book recommendations, for updates, for getting in touch and submitting your responses to these questions. The website, aliandmacarasbooks.ca, for the updates. That's where they go up first. Definitely subscribe over there if you haven't already. Various podcast platforms, wherever you want to get your podcasts, we're probably there. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, TuneIn, iHeart. YouTube is also a big one, of course. That's where we are live, Ali and Makara's Books. Feel free to subscribe over there. You can do that from where you listen to the lives or from the channel itself. Feel free to engage, like, comment, all these great things.
Yes, because see, that's where, as much as we are available on all these other platforms, meaning Apple, all the ones that you just mentioned, we really want, because YouTube is a big thing now.
And you're still welcome to drop ratings or comments on the ones you can as
Yes.
well over there. But
But YouTube is a big thing. That's where that's where the level of engagement happens as well.
that is true.
We are going to continue to push the YouTube more, and to check us out there, even if you may not necessarily listen there, but do give it a like and enable all the notifications, so then you know when we go live.
Exactly. And we've also got Goodreads. We've got a group there, same name as everything else, Ali and Makara's Books, and our individual profiles if you want to see what we're reading and see our thoughts. Lots of different places to engage. And don't forget to stay tuned for June 30th.
Yes, and we are and Ali and Makara's book is part of
the Broadcast Map Network.
Yes, and there will be some branding there, so stay tuned for that too. Check us out next week. It has really been a fun show, hasn't it?
It has.